Hey friends, welcome to the Good Roots podcast. My name is Nick Lee. I'm the lead pastor here at Harvest United Methodist Church in Florida. And this podcast is simply a conversation we wanted to start with you about all things to do with faith, family, in the context we're living in. Each week, we're going to come to you with a different topic as a conversation starter. We'll have different guests who will be with us to talk about things like prayer, to talk about things like forgiveness, even things about how do we love our enemies when it feels like they aren't deserving of love. We really do hope that this is a conversation that you get to be a part of, a conversation starter for a small group or just conversations around your family table. We are trying to build good, deep roots so that we can mature and grow in our faith and deal with the real things of life. So we hope you'll join us for Good Roots, and I hope you enjoy the podcast. Guys, thanks for sitting with me for our first podcast here at Harvest. I just want to introduce you guys just really quickly to everybody who's watching with us today. So we got Brad Hinkey, who is new to Harvest, joined just a couple of months ago.
Yep.
Serves on our discipleship team.
Yep.
So glad that you're here. We got Hannah Stelter here as well. Hannah is our director of family ministries at Harvest. And you've been here for what, 4 years now?
3 years? Yeah, 3
Okay.
years.
3 years. We're starting this whole podcast thing with our first sermon series of the summer called The Practices. And essentially, we're going to be talking over the next couple of weeks about the ways that, or the things that we need to practice as followers of Jesus Christ to fully be able to be that in all circumstances, right? So the first practice is prayer, and I asked you guys to come and talk with me a little bit about that because both of you are teaching some of the sections for prayer in our small group series over the summer as well. So we've got practices for the sermon series, and then we've also got we've got prayer all through the summer. And so Brad, I actually think you're up first.
Yep.
So your class starts June 14th, right? What
Yeah.
time is it at?
6:30, I believe.
6:30. Okay, cool. So I just want to ask you guys a couple of questions. So prayer seems to be one of the most essential pieces of what it means to be a follower of Jesus Christ. But it also seems to be one of the ones that it's kind of difficult for some of us, right? I've heard, and I'm sure you guys have heard all the time, some folks are like, hey, I don't want to pray out loud. Hey, I really struggle. Should I get up in the morning and pray? Should I do the monk thing and pray every 2 hours? So, Brad, I want to ask you first. This is kind of a vulnerable question. What's the most difficult part of prayer for you when you think about prayer in your life?
For me, it's been to be consistent with it.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, Nick, it's I will pray. I guess I would call myself a sporadic prayer.
Okay.
And so just having the consistency to be in conversation with God on a continual basis has been a challenge.
Yeah. When you say consistency, is it just, are we talking every day? Are we talking like there are periods of like really great prayer and then really dry periods? Like, talk more about the difficulty.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I tend to do mostly intercessional prayer or Thanksgiving prayer.
Okay.
So if I'm consciously thankful and want to go to God and say thanks, I'm good about that. When I have needs, either personal needs or for a friend or family member, and it's the in-between pieces where I could be more intentional about it, and that's been the challenge for me, is to see and have a conversation with God under normal everyday circumstances.
I like that. We'll come back. I want to come back to the types of prayer. So I'm glad you said intercession and then Thanksgiving. But Hannah, I want to ask you the same question. What are some of the things? So you've been in ministry for a good chunk of your life now, right?
Yeah, I've been in full-time ministry for 6 years now.
So people assume that because we're in ministry, we just have these like amazing prayer lives. What are some of the difficulties you find in prayer?
For me, it's not getting distracted, which sounds kind of ridiculous, but I feel like sometimes I will start praying or I'll start thinking about something and then it just goes off on a tangent. Like I'll be praying for somebody and then start thinking about how I can help them in their whatever situation they're in, or how can I do better to help them or do whatever. And so I think that's where I get the most struggle, is that I just get distracted on different tangents and start thinking about groceries or whatever else. And then having the baby now adds a whole nother level of distraction, of course. But
So as you guys are talking, I'm thinking about the burden of prayer too sometimes. So when we talk about intercessory prayer, intercession, normally we're talking about, okay, I have a friend or a person who is sick, like I've got cancer or whatever, and we really dig in and try to pray for them all the time. I wonder, and either one of you can answer this, are there certain types of prayer you find yourself where you gravitate towards those more versus the others?
For me, it would be the intercessory type prayer. Somebody that I know, has a life challenge. Like I said, that's where I feel comfortable, conversing with God, asking God to bestow his blessing upon that individual or that family or whatever. I'm comfortable giving thanks to God for things that he's blessed me with, that he's blessed other people with. Those are the comfort zone prayers for me.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hannah, what about you?
I think mine is Thanksgiving. I find it easier to bring my requests when I say thanks first, as silly as that kind of sounds. I feel better asking God for things if I have thanked him first, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but in my head, I feel like I need to show gratitude first before asking for help with things.
Yeah. I guess I feel like the outlier here. My prayers are both intercessory, but it almost feels like I know I'm really good about praying when things are going bad. That seems like to be the time. And so, unlike you guys, it sounds like I have to get better at Thanksgiving prayers. But part of that's the nature of the vocation, right? So, I sit and more people come to me with issues they have going on, and so, I find myself praying about those things. Okay, so I wonder then, let's talk about some practical things. Let's talk overarching first. What do you think, and Hannah, I'll go to you first, since, in ministry you have to do this a lot. As you're talking to parents and students and other people, when prayer becomes the subject, how do you tell people, or what's the ways that you would encourage people that prayer is so important?
I mean, we emphasize a lot in Sunday school and in youth group about how prayer is our direct line to God. It's how we bring any requests, any praise, anything. It's the way that we talk to him, and we explain it a lot as you're talking to a friend, right? If you would go to a friend to complain about something, you can go to God and complain about him if you need to. If you're sharing about how excited you are to a friend or a family member, you can go to God to share that excitement as well. And so we try to tell them that it's more of a conversation. It's not something that needs to be scary. It's not something that needs to hurt anybody. It's something that you're just talking to God like you would a friend or a family member.
That's good. What about you, Brad?
I mean, I think one thing I would say is you don't have to be good at it. Just do it. Right? I mean, I think and the Bible says this: God accepts all prayers that are coming to him in faith. And so I think sometimes good can be just like great can be the enemy of good. Good can be the enemy of starting. If people think, well, I don't want to sound, what if my prayer isn't good? And I would say, for people that are challenged to get started, just say, God, help with your petition. It doesn't have to be, long and elaborate. Just pray.
And we talk about that a lot too with our youth, is that it doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't
Right.
have to be like something that you say the same way every single time. It's whatever you feel you need to bring to God in that moment.
I think it's a great way to do it.
Well, because I think there is this feeling of needing to be elaborate, like we're going to God, and it's almost it feels like, and you guys, can tell me how you feel about this. Sometimes it feels like when going to God, we're like, well, you are the creator of the universe, you know everything, and so I guess I need to come and have a well scripted plan to talk to you about. You said, sometimes just help. There's a book that I give to people all the time. Anne Lamott has this whole book about like 3 types of prayer, and one of them is just the word help, like where she just says, "Hey, I just need help, God." Scripture, I think, so one of my favorite scriptures is that the Spirit knows what we need before we can ask for it, and half the time, the Spirit is what helps us get the words out. So let's talk about good prayer then, just for a second. If you were going to tell somebody what a good prayer is, like, I know we just said good can be, but people like, what should it? How does it look? If you guys were giving some of the definition of a good prayer, what does it look like?
I think I'll call it a fence post for lack of a better word right now. I think one fence post that I'd say is it needs to be what I'd call righteous. So is it an ask that you would consider good in the eyes of God, righteous, maybe the word moral, I don't know that that's the right word, but maybe righteous is the right word. And I think that's a fence post people can use to look and say, am I praying for the right things to continue to bring God's kingdom to earth, or is it a prayer for me and what I want, right? And so we pray for things that we want, but I think it also needs to be righteous, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I had a youth talk to me one time about prayer, and one of the things they asked was, how do I know that I'm praying for the right thing? And the answer I gave them was, if it's something that's not going to benefit just yourself, if it's something that's going to benefit other people, it's going to bring about a positive change in your life that will help others and bring them closer to God, that's how you know that you're praying for the right things and the right reasons. And so that's kind of what I base my prayers off of. It's not just what do I need personally, but how can I use my gifts, and how does God want to use me in order to help other people?
I'm going to push that thought, though, a little bit, too, because we were just talking in staff meeting. Some of my favorite prayers are not holy prayers. So, when I read through the Psalms, I read David and some of the other ones, and some of those prayers are awful. Like, please smite all of my enemies.
Right.
And, I have been, when I talk to my kids about it, one of the biggest changes for me became being careful to go to God with even my complaints first before I go to everybody else, right? That's been one of the things I've been working on, has been like, there are some times where I'm just not happy about stuff. And so I think I would expand what a good prayer looks like and just say, it's the prayer you're willing to pray. In the sense that I'm hoping that as I pray, God is in communication with me back and forth a little bit too. So if my prayer is off base, that in the midst of that, hoping that God will change my heart, I guess, about what I'm praying for. So, I think a good prayer, that's interesting. It's one of the conversations I'm sure that folks, as they watch this, and as people are watching, I know you guys are watching this on YouTube and some other places, this is a great conversation to even have in your house. Like, what does your prayer life look like, and what are the things that you how you're praying? I got a couple of other questions for you guys. So we're talking about this in the sense of practice, right? So prayer becomes a practice that we do consistently, to use your word, because we need it. I wonder, A, let's talk about what's your practice or routine of prayer, and then B, what do you hope out of prayer will happen to you? So Hannah, you don't have to give us the exhaustive of your prayer life, but
I start every morning with a prayer as soon as I wake up. That's the first thing I do, and it's normally a prayer of gratitude, just thank you for this day. Help me to do your will. And so I do that right as soon as I wake up, whether it's the baby woke me up or my alarm, whichever one. And then I do a devotional right afterwards, and that ends with the Lord's Prayer every day. So before I do anything else, I do the prayer of gratitude and then the Lord's Prayer at the end of the devotion. And I can't remember what the second part of your question was.
Well, so what do you hope in prayer?
Mm-hmm.
What are you hoping for outside of just, prayers that get answered?
Yeah.
Is there something that as you pray as a practice you were hoping will happen to you or to the world? Like, what does that look like?
I think it sets the tone for the new day. Like we go to sleep at night and we wake up in the morning, and that's the start of a new day. Whatever happened yesterday it's happened, and so now it's time to move forward. And so I like to use that prayer time in the morning as like a setting the tone of what I want to expect for myself during the day, what I'm hoping to accomplish, and how I want God to help me through that.
That's good. What about you, Brad?
Similar to Hannah, I start in the morning when I wake up, and I say a prayer. Usually it's a prayer of thanksgiving. And if there are things on my mind that are more intercessory in nature, I'll offer those up again. And then, I have certain other points when I pray. Oddly enough, I always pray after communion. So when I get back to my seat in church, I always say a prayer.
I do as well.
Communion is very meaningful to me, and I think prayer is a great way to end that, to give thanks to God, and to, certain other times something hits me, pop a prayer, but from a routine standpoint, my routine is first thing in the morning. When I was a little kid, it was when I went to bed. Stop doing. I mean, it's great, and I think that routine piece is actually important. Again, it gets that intentionality part to it. And you can ask, what am I hoping for with it? For me, it's about trying to get closer to God and trying to be a better Christian. And I think prayer is a part of that. God doesn't always answer prayers in the time frame that we want, or maybe even in the way that we expected, right? And so being open to that, and I think the only way, well, not the only way, but a good way to being more open is to just pray more often. And that's what I'm trying to do, is get better. Because look, Nick, if you'd asked me, hey, are you a good prayer? I would say no. I'm not. It's one of the other things that I'm working on. But it's, it's part of that journey that we all take as Christians. It is.
How much, I wonder too, like, how much has your prayer life changed over the years? I was a big, so my family, we've been in church our whole lives. I remember my prayers as a kid became an exhaustive list of everybody in my life so that nobody would die on accident because I didn't pray. Like, I remember as a kid, that was one of the guilty things was, did I get grandma? Did I get everybody else?
Right.
So I wonder how you would characterize the evolving nature of your prayer life. I mean,
I think I became more invested in prayer when I started in full-time ministry. When it, to be honest, it did start feeling kind of like a job or like a thing I needed to check off my list. And that's a ministry thing that, we're always working through, is how do we make coming to God feel less like a job or less like something we have to check off our to-do list for work. And so for the past couple of years, it's something I've been working on, is being more intentional about the prayer. And so I did grow up in the church, and so I remember going to Sunday school and learning the Lord's Prayer, and then every meal my family would pray together, and that's something that we've still continued in our house today. But I've definitely become more intentional in the past few years with that.
Brad, what about you?
It's actually an interesting question for me, Nick. So growing up, it was praying at meals, praying at night, relatively formulaic, I would call it. And you kind of had the child's eyes towards that. And then there was a period in my life in my 20s where my prayer life was pretty much non-existent,
Right.
to be honest with you, as well as my church life.
Yeah.
And then as I came back to church and prayer life returned, I feel like it's a little more mature, a little less formulaic. And as I said, still working at it, but I feel like, you know, knowing that it's important, you know, I continue to try and achieve a better. I feel like I have a little more adult prayers most of the time.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by adult prayers?
Things where I'm asking God, not necessarily for. I'm more asking that His will be done in all of this instead of, you know, let's say an intercessory prayer. You know, sure, I've got a friend right now that's going through prostate cancer. I'd like that to be healed. But what I really want most is for God to be with him, and for him to know that people care about him, God cares about him, and that sort of thing. So that's what I mean. Maybe adult's not the right word, but that's the word I'm going to use.
It's a maturing prayer.
Yeah, exactly.
So I wonder too, with you guys, like, we go through seasons, and I'm going off the rails now. So like, I sent you four, but as we're talking, so what do you guys do when it feels like your prayer life is dry? Because I think that's one of the questions that people are going to ask of us.
Yeah.
And even as they're sitting and listening and trying to interact with this, I guess one of the questions is, okay, we have times where prayer it comes across easy. For whatever the reason is. Maybe it is a really difficult period of time, or maybe it is the calm time where it's easy to get up in the morning and say, I'm thankful for this, this, and this. So I would imagine that all of us have had dry seasons. How do you dig yourself? I'll ask you first, Brad, because you came from being in your 20s and not being really in church, which is kind of the epitome of a dry season. What are the things that you try to do to either get out of those dry seasons, or I don't know if avoid is the right word, because I think we all have dry seasons. So what are the things that you might do to get out of a dry season?
I think at least what worked for me was getting more engaged with the church in other ways. And I think that helped facilitate me getting back to a little bit more regular prayer. You hear about it, you think about it, it's a little bit more on your mind. For me, most of the time it's omission. It's not thinking about it, as opposed to, you know, I consciously don't want to pray, right? I mean, or I'm angry, you know, and I don't want to pray. That's, for me, that's not it. It's more, wow, I haven't been praying much lately, kind of thing. And it's, you know, whatever, life got in the way, job, you know, whatever. And so for me to get back into a groove, it's to get back into more of a church groove, if you will.
That's good, yeah. I know you're in ministry, but we have dry seasons too.
We do, yes. For me, it's setting aside intentional time, setting either 10 minutes, 15 minutes, however long I have, to do some sort of prayer practice. And so before, in past dry seasons, I've done like journaling. I'll set aside 10 minutes to write out my prayer physically, and that helps me to get back into the groove. And so for me, it's definitely like calendaring out. I'm going to sit down from 3:30 to 4, and I'm going to pray during that time. I'm going to do whatever I need to do in order to feel more connected. I'm going to try to do that every day until it becomes more of a habit.
Yeah. Do you guys so one of the things I've been reading about lately has been the idea of, there was a monk who walked across Europe and prayed the breath prayers. And so I've read a lot lately about, some of us don't do well in just sitting in a room and praying. Are there ever times where you guys incorporate something that allows you to be active and moving, or something outside of just sitting in a room? Like, what are some of those things? Because I think folks are going to want to know, like, what are the ways that we can pray? And I'm not just, I'll be honest, like, my brain will run. We talked about it earlier about like the distractions. If I'm sitting for 45 minutes trying to pray, I'm going to pray for my kids, and then I'm going to think what they need for dinner.
Right.
So
yeah.
what are some of the active ways?
So my prayer study this summer is actually going to be one of the sessions is going to be on active prayer and how. So there's a little sneak preview for people, I guess.
Okay,
But
here we go.
one of the prayers we're going to work on is the Lord's Prayer, and how do we incorporate movement into that? And so it's kind of like a flow of standing up, sitting down, moving our arms, in connection to the words of the Lord's Prayer. And then the second part of that session will be a gratitude prayer, and how do we use our body to show gratitude to God. And so it's based on a book that I read this past year that I think you recommended to me, or somebody recommended to me, and it's really, really good. And it incorporates a lot of, it's for kids and the grown-ups who love them is what it's stated as. So it's a little younger, but I do think a lot of those are relevant. And if you're feeling like you can't sit still or you need to do some of that movement, it's also a really good practice for adults too.
That's good. What about you, Brad?
So for me, one of the things that would kind of sync with me is when I would walk my dog in the morning.
Yeah.
And I'm out with my dog, and it's nature,
Yeah.
and it's a nice quiet time for me to reflect. And sometimes I'll pray when I'm walking along, just kind of, being kind of communing with nature, if you will. And I've used that. It doesn't have to be a dog. It's other times such. For me, sometimes outdoors makes me feel closer to God, and then that kicks in. Oh, I could have a conversation right now, right?
Yeah.
When I'm working, doesn't hit me there.
Yeah.
So that would be one
That's good.
possibility for folks if they're outdoor types.
Yeah, and like you said, prayer I don't think has to happen in a dark room with your head down and eyes closed. I think it can happen anywhere, and we tell that a lot to our kids and youth. Like, you can pray while you're taking a shower because there's nothing to distract you there.
Right.
You can pray on your way to school when your mom is driving you. You don't have to look at your phone. You can do whatever. You can pray wherever as long as you are talking to God.
I've read a lot about prayer walking,
Mm-hmm.
partially because you can look and you can see nature and what God has done, and there's some connection there. I think so. We haven't definitively defined prayer together just yet, but I keep thinking in my head when we talk about prayer, it's a conversation where we talk to God and we wait to hear. And sometimes it feels like no answer is okay. Like if we don't hear something, I don't know if you guys have ever had this where you've heard this audible thing, and some people do, some people don't. But it sounds like we can pray at every kind of juncture of our lives. I keep telling people though, hey, listen, if you're going to pray in the car, don't close your eyes.
Yes.
That's the big one. Don't do that.
Only if your mom's driving.
Only if your mom's driving. And some of us pray on the golf course, but it's literally just God, let me hit this straight. So I don't know if that
I don't know if that.
I don't know if that counts. I mean, it is a prayer of petition. Please, Lord, let this go straight. So you kind of gave us like a sneak peek of what you're going to be talking about. So yours is kind of more. So over the next, I think it's about 8 to 10 weeks over the summer, we're going to be having different people talk about prayer. So you're going to do something that's more centered around.
One of the sessions is.
Is. What's the other session that you're going to be doing?
The other session is going to be focused more on scripture and quiet prayer.
Okay.
And so we'll do one practice where we'll have all the participants pick a word or a phrase, and they'll connect that with their breath and breathe in and out with that word as they pray it to God. And then the other practice within that session will be putting yourself into scripture, putting yourself in the boat with the disciples as Jesus is walking, and what conversation would you have with Jesus afterwards, that sort of thing. So we're really excited about that. I think it'll be really cool.
That's good. Okay, so you are actually doing the first one. So give us, I don't know. I mean, don't give everybody everything, but what's...
So I am going to cover a book called Praying Backwards by Bryan Chapell.
Okay.
It's a book that has helped me be a little more intentional with prayer. And so, the goal is to have a discussion centered around some of the things that Chapell suggests can assist people in their prayer lives. So, and my hope is after we're done with that session, that the folks that attend will be interested enough to get the book and do a deeper dive. Obviously, I can't cover the whole book in an hour and 15 minutes, but just to tease them and make them interested in maybe, something resonates and they're interested in taking that book, and it can help them with their prayer lives.
That's good. So I'm going to ask you one more question, and this is one that I actually said to you when I emailed you guys. Um, so I know you're teaching classes, but what is one thing, if as people are watching and thinking and trying to process prayer in their own lives, what is one thing you would encourage everybody? And we're talking kids all the way up to adults. What's one thing you would encourage them as they kind of try to think of a pattern of prayer, or even, I mean, some folks will go, I pray at dinner, or I pray, thank God, whatever. What's something you would encourage them to do as a next step to kind of increase their prayer life? I know
That's a big
that's a
question.
big question.
I think I would encourage specifically our children and youth to find a time, whether it's as soon as they wake up or right before bed. Just pick a time and try to be consistent with it. It might feel a little silly at some points, but that's okay. You're learning.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's important just to find that time so you can start being consistent. It's like any sort of practice or rehearsal. You have to set aside time, otherwise you're not going to do it. And so if our families and adults, whoever, are able to pick a time where they know that that's what they're going to be doing, I think that'll help them.
Okay. All right, Brad, what about you?
I would say get out of your comfort zone. Because I think when you're comfortable, it becomes routine, and
Yeah.
maybe then it becomes just something that you do.
Yeah.
And I think when you get out of your comfort zone, that's when you can take a step. And so that's going to look different for everybody. So what does that mean? It's a great phrase, but what does it mean? I think it means something different for different people. Depends on where they are at in their prayer life. And so whether that's praying a different kind of prayer, or whatever that is, that's going to say, all right, this is something I haven't done in my prayer life. This is something I haven't taken to God before. This is something. Go there.
Yeah. Okay. I think I would add to that. I would tell people just to pray about everything and anything.
Mm-hmm.
I just think sometimes we imagine that it has to be a formula, or we talked about this earlier. Like, it's not formulaic. It doesn't have to be, and it doesn't have to be exhaustive. I sometimes I do the prayer of help, and some days it's just help, and some days it's just thank you. And the last one Anne Lamott talks about is wow, when something happens that's so incredible. Like, you should thank God for that. I had a really good friend once who said he was an atheist for a while, and his child got swept out to sea under a rip current, and he goes, I didn't have anybody to be mad at, and when his son came back, like, and they found him and he was okay, he didn't have anybody to say thank you to. So I would probably just say to folks, whoever's watching today, just pray, like, whatever it is. It could be anything, even stuff that feels minute, like, thanks for this parking spot.
Right.
Just because it
Right.
positions us to be more thinking about that.
Yep.
So
For sure.
I just want to say thank you guys. Thanks for doing
you're
this. You
welcome.
guys are the
Yeah.
first ones to do this with us. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, or maybe you found it on our website, we would love for you to be a part of the prayer sessions, these classes we're doing. They're on Sunday afternoons, about 6:30, right, for everybody's classes. You can find more stuff on our website at welcometoharvest.org. And then we'll be preaching this June 7th. And if you're seeing this, everything lasts on the internet forever. So this could be a year after we've actually done this. It's okay. I would just encourage you, if you've got family or friends, we did these podcasts, and the reason why they're conversations, because we wanted to start a conversation that people could continue on in their homes. And so let this conversation, again, be something that you do on a regular basis with your family. We're going to do these every week. So it won't always be Brad and Hannah with me. There'll be different people. We'll be talking about different practices. But again, I just want to say thank you to you guys for
You're very welcome.
being our first in the podcast. So thanks, and thank you for watching with us today.